right, so let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about something that, well, it just doesn't seem to make any sense in competitive card games. Every new set brings cards that are stronger, faster, and just plain better. So how in the world are we still seeing decks from years ago, strategies that should be totally obsolete, snagging the biggest trophies?
And yeah, it's a fantastic question, right? Because everything we know about game design tells us this shouldn't be happening. You see, to keep things fresh, new cards are supposed to be more powerful. It's a whole thing called power creep we're going to get into. So how does a classic old-school strategy even stand a chance against an opponent that was literally designed to be superior? That's the puzzle we're going to solve. And this image right here, it just perfectly captures the heart of this whole thing. You've got the huge, terrifying dragon, that's your modern, overwhelming power. And then you have this skilled warrior, representing that classic strategy, armed not with bigger muscles, but with experience, timing, and precision. This is the exact battle we're about to break down.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll get to know the main obstacle here, this thing called power creep. Then we'll look at just how insanely powerful modern decks are. After that, we'll start uncovering the hidden tricks old strategies use to keep up. Then we'll focus on the player themselves. And finally, we'll put it all together to see exactly how skill can take down raw strength. All right, so first things first. Before we can even talk about how an old deck wins, we've got to understand the big, bad force it's constantly up against. We need to really define the villain of our story: power creep.
So what is power creep? Well, it's the engine that makes any evolving game, well, evolve. To keep us all buying new packs and staying interested, designers have to release cards that are just better. They do more, they cost less, they're more efficient. It's basically a built-in timer that ensures yesterday's top-tier champion slowly fades into a forgotten relic.
And this metaphor, it is absolutely perfect. Think of modern decks as these brand new supercars. They're sleek, they're unbelievably fast, engineered for max performance right off the assembly line. The older decks, they're the classic muscle cars. On paper, there's just no way they should be able to keep up. But as we're about to see, when you put a master driver behind the wheel, they just refuse to get left in the dust.
Okay, so let's move on and really see how this all builds up. To truly appreciate how the underdog wins, you first have to respect the sheer power of the giant it's fighting. So let's take a good, hard look at the absolutely brutal power of a modern meta deck.
Modern decks, they're just built different. I mean, we're talking about one-card starters, where a single card can kick off a huge explosive combo that builds an entire board. They're jam-packed with extenders, so even if you stop them once, they just keep going. They have searchers that search for other searchers. It's like having a GPS for your GPS, giving them insane consistency. And the payoff? These boss monsters that do it all. They negate your plays, they replace themselves when destroyed, and they recycle their own resources to do it all again next turn. So after that one single card does its thing, this is what you're staring down. It's not just one big monster, it is a fortress of no. You're facing maybe 2, 3, even 4 ways to negate your monster effects, another 1 or 2 for your spells and traps, and just for good measure, they'll throw in a floodgate, something that just locks you out of a core mechanic entirely. And the absolute worst part, they've already set themselves up to rebuild the entire thing on their very next turn. It's just suffocating. It seems pretty much impossible to beat, right? I mean, what do you even do against that? But this is where the story takes a turn. It's time to pull back the curtain on our underdog and start revealing the hidden secrets that let these older, supposedly weaker decks actually go toe-to-toe in this kind of environment. You know, the first secret really comes down to a totally different design philosophy. A lot of these older decks are built around a core engine that's incredibly resilient. It's like a marathon runner. It's self-contained and designed to generate a small but steady bit of advantage, turn after turn after turn, looping its own resources. Compare that to modern decks, which are more like sprinters. They're explosive for sure, but they often rely on these very specific, fragile combo lines. And if you can find that one weak link, that one choke point, their whole strategy can just crumble. And this is so important. These older decks just happen to have the traits that matter most in today's game. They often have their own super consistent one-card starters. Their core engines are completely self-sufficient, and their ability to recycle resources means they excel in those long, drawn-out grind games where the explosive modern decks tend to burn out and run out of gas. They weren't designed for this future, but they were built so solidly that they've turned out to be timeless. But here it is, the real secret, the big twist in all of this.
Because their own engine is so small and efficient, these older decks have a ton of extra space. We're talking 12, 15, sometimes even more deck slots that they can fill with the most powerful generic cards in the game. These are the hand traps that stop those crazy combos before they start, and the board breakers that tear down those fortresses we were just talking about. They basically get to take all the best weapons of the modern era and turn them against the modern decks. And because their own strategy is so compact, they can often do it even better.
So let's keep going, because the deck itself is only one part of this story. Having a sleek engine and a deck full of powerful cards, well, that's not enough by itself. It's time to introduce the most important, most unpredictable, and frankly, the most powerful element in this whole equation, the human factor. This quote, this just says it all, doesn't it? The people winning with these old decks aren't just picking up the flavor of the month. No, these are masters who have spent years, literally years, learning every single tiny interaction, every weird ruling, every possible line of play for their deck. Their biggest advantage isn't the power of their cards, it's the power of their experience.
And this image is a perfect visual for that exact idea. When you're in the competitive arena, under all that pressure, the deck in your hands is just a tool. It's like a sword or a shield. But the real weapon, the thing that guides every single move and makes all the tough decisions, that's the mind of the person holding those cards.
So what does this mastery actually look like? Well, it's not just one thing. It's layers of skill. It all starts with just a deep, encyclopedic knowledge of their own deck. Then comes adaptation, that gut feeling of knowing exactly when to go for the win versus when to play it safe. Next is just flawless resource management. With older decks, you have less to work with, so you have to make every single card count. And finally, you have to have complete awareness of your opponent. These masters study the new decks relentlessly, not to play them, but to find out exactly where to poke to make them fall apart.
And that brings us right to our final section. We've seen the efficient, classic deck. We've met the master player. Now let's put it all together and watch that magical moment unfold, the moment where careful, meticulous skill just completely dismantles overwhelming strength.
Now this slide just nails the entire concept perfectly. Look at that. On the left, you've got pure brute force, a complex, tangled web of negations and threats. It looks completely unbreakable. But on the right, you see the master's answer. It isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about precision. It's about using all that knowledge to find the one single weak point in that entire fortress and hitting it with a perfectly timed move that makes the whole thing collapse. It's a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. So let's lay it all out. What's the final verdict? How do these old decks still win? Well, first, their engines are hyper-efficient and self-contained. Second, that efficiency gives them tons of room for the best meta-defining power cards. Third, their design lets them thrive in long games where modern decks just run out of fuel. And finally, and most importantly, they are piloted by masters whose skill and knowledge acts as the ultimate force multiplier. It is the perfect storm of a timeless strategy and a masterful player. And we'll end on this thought. Power creep is absolutely real. It's always going to be there, pushing from the new and the shiny. But these wins from classic decks are such a powerful reminder of a much deeper truth. They prove that dedication, that preparation, and that true mastery of your craft can overcome almost any disadvantage. They show us that the greatest power in any game has never, ever been in the cards themselves, but in the mind and the heart of the player who wields them.